This morning I'm going to do a little work on the controls for the DI. What I've got here is I've got the throttle lever that came off the DI, and I also have the clutch lever off the DI, and you can see something has been torched off the side of this. I'm going to insert a picture out of the 45R catalog to show what both of these control levers are supposed to look like, and then I'll bring you back. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to recreate the extra lever that came off the side here. So what I'm going to try to use is this clutch lever off of my 40 Model H. And this lever has been repaired. It's been brazed, so I did not use it on the tractor. But I'm going to post a picture now of a diagram that my friend Brandon Knapp sent me that shows the dimensions of how this clutch lever is supposed to be. Okay, so from the diagram, we know that the stick out on this auxiliary lever should be around 17 inches or thereabouts from the base of the ball. So we've got about 17 and a half. But what that doesn't include is the 4 inches after the bend that was welded onto the side of the main lever. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to cut this off, and I'm going to add about 4.5 inches onto the end of this, and we'll do that over in the lathe. So we'll get started with this, and I'll bring you back. Okay, we're here at the lathe. We got the end cut off of the H clutch handle. We'll need to face that off. I've also got a piece of 7/8 shafting that we're going to stick in the chuck first. We're going to counterbore that. We're going to face, well, I think it's already faced off, but we're going to counterbore that, and then we'll put a little stem on the end of the clutch handle, and we'll V it out so we can prepare it for welding. So I'm going to start the phase converter so I can run the lathe, so it's probably going to be hard to hear, but I'll get you in position so you can watch. The first thing we're going to do is cinder drill that shaft. We're going to bore that shaft out to 3/8, and then we'll bevel it for the weld. All right, here we go. should do it for the boring. Okay, so we've got that counter board and we've got it beveled for the weld. This part's ready to go. Let's get started on the clutch handle. I think a little filing and that will probably work. Okay, there we are. So let's just go ahead and bevel that and get it prepped for weld and move on to the next step. Okay, we've got our stub welded on. I'm going to face this end, put a center in it, and then we'll proceed to turn that down to the same diameter as the original clutch handle. There we go. I think that will go ahead and see how that works. Yeah, should be better. Alright, get that faced off. Go ahead and pull this on out. And I'm gonna choke up as much as I can on the original handle. There. And I think I'm gonna have to change tools. All right. There we are. Well, it's the next day. Through some technical difficulties with the phone and the heat that we were experiencing, we ended up not being able to finish this segment. But anyway, I've got the shaft dressed up with the file. It's a few thousandths, probably a little smaller, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. And I've also dressed the weld off on the original clutch lever. So what we're going to try to do today, if you'll look at the 45R catalog page that I posted, and I'll post it again here for your reference. This appears to come down at kind of a taper toward the bottom. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to set this up in the mill, and I'm going to shave from 0 to maybe 3/4 of the way through this and make that to where it kind of blends into the shaft. And once we get that like we want it, then I'm going to tack it and see how it looks and go from there. So let's get started over on the mill with the setup. Okay, we're set up in the mill, and you can see that number 4 that is written on the shaft. That designates the 4-inch length, and if you'll remember on Brandon's diagram, the weld was about 4 inches long, and the beginning of that weld was 5 inches up from the bottom. So we're going to taper this section of the shaft till we get to that line right there that designates the end of the 4-inch mark. This isn't scientific. There's no set angle. I just eyeballed it with a set of parallels. So we're going to touch off, and we're going to get started on whittling this down. Okay, well, we've got the taper machined on the end of the clutch lever. As you can see, we came right up to our 4-inch mark here on the end, and I did have to adjust this a little bit in the vise. I wasn't quite as thin as I wanted to be down here, so we did a little adjustment while we were milling, but overall I think it's going to end up being satisfactory. So this will weld on to the original clutch lever about in this position right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this laid out, get it tacked on, and take a look at it again, and then we'll go from there. We're set up now, getting ready to weld. As you can see, my welding table is not the best, but I have everything lined up, and the two handles are parallel, looking at them directly from the side. So I think we'll go ahead and tack this and then see what it looks like. We've got the new lever tacked to the old, and I'm pretty satisfied with the way it lines up with the original lever. I did not weld it fully just in case it doesn't turn out. But anyway, we're going to attempt to heat this right in this area right here, and we're going to bend this over to match that picture in the catalog 45R plate. And what we're going to try to do, that is hot still, sorry about that, but we're going to line this framing square up with the top of the ball and parallel with this lever. We're going to bend this over until the top of the ball meets the bottom of the framing square, is what the intent is. So there's nothing left to do but try it, so we're going to give her a shot. Okay. Now we don't want a real sharp bend. Okay, we're starting to move some. And we're having a parting line where I added that on. That is not good. Evidently my weld didn't penetrate. Let's check and see how we are. I'm afraid it's going to break. Yeah, it came totally apart. Bummer. All right. Only thing I know to do is to weld it up, and we'll try it again. As you saw in the last clip, I had an issue with my welding job. And as it turned out, I used my wire welder with the flux core wire, And basically I ended up filling that weld entirely full of carbon. It didn't hold at all. As soon as it got hot and we started to bend it, it parted. So what I ended up doing, and we're going to attempt this again, naturally I couldn't get it quite as nice and round and pretty yet as it was before, but I ground all of that carbon out of here, and I re-welded this with the 7018 with the stick welder. I've heated it once already, got this whole section hot, and it seems to be pretty even without anything showing up. So we're going to give it a shot again and see if we can get this handle bent and see how it goes. Okay, I'm going to stop right there for just a second. Check it with the square. Not quite enough. Looks like we lack about 1 inch. About 1/2 inch. Okay, I went a little far. So we will maybe just a scotch. That may have been it right there. Well, I'm dancing all around it. I think we'll call that. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and raise that up and show that to you. And this is how we ended up right here. Pretty close. So we're going to let that cool, and then we're going to dress these welds up here and make sure that it turns out all right. We'll finish weld it, and then I'll show you the final product. While we're waiting for the clutch handle to cool, there's one other thing that I need to try to do. At some point in its life, when this DI was converted to be a farm tractor, they straightened this throttle lever out, and it was supposed to be over here at approximately a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to fire the torch up, and I know this is cast. I'm going to do my best to get it hot enough that we can just ease it over, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, it looks like it's starting to part a little bit. Okay. Now that was not without its issues either. It looks like, I don't know if it didn't appear that they cut and welded it, but we have got a crack that is starting right here. So I am going to stop right there, and I think that is pretty close. I'll check it with the picture. We may grind that out, and we may braze that back together to give us some strength. I was concerned about this with it being cast, but we're close to where we need to be. Maybe not quite 45, but we'll wait and see how it turns out. Okay, I ground the crack out of this throttle handle, and we're getting ready to braze that up. That's how we ended up on the clutch lever. And as you saw in the clip, my first weld failed here. So I went back with 7018. I ground all of this out. Went back with 7018. Welded it all back up. And I believe we've got a good bond this time. It seems to hold. It seems to be solid with the rest of it. I didn't bother dressing my weld much. That's pretty much, they didn't bother dressing the weld on the lever originally, so I didn't do a whole lot there. But I think it came out pretty good. And so anyway, there we go on that. The last thing you saw me do was bend this back into the shape that it was supposed to be, according to that plate out of the 45R catalog. And I mentioned as we were bending and open that a crack had opened up right here. And as you all, I'm sure, are aware, cast is not made to be bent. So I'm sure they fatigued it, did whatever when they bent it straight up and down the first time. But anyway, at any rate, I went ahead and ground that crack out. I brazed it up, and then I went after it with the needle scaler to help try to put some of the rough finish back in it. I think it'll hold just fine. I think we may have some work to do down here on these two holes, but we'll do that later. So anyway, the two control levers for the DI, I believe, are pretty well complete. And for once, we fixed something on the DI instead of tore it apart. So that's a good thing. So anyway, with that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. This has been kind of a different little project, but anyway, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. Please comment. We appreciate everything that you do for the channel, and there'll be more to come on the DI shortly, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.